Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel, Tech Tricks and Fundamentals. Today I'm Yash and we'll be going over the second video in this series, Programming in C. So today we'll be making your first C program. Let's jump right into it. So for this series, we're going to be using the compiler onlinegdb.com/online_C_compiler. I'll leave a link in the description, and even if you just search up on Google online C compiler, it should be one of the first pop-ups. So let's close that. And so when you log in, you're going to see something like this window. You don't have to log in. You can just use without logging in. So you'll see this thing. So we're actually going to be making this program right here, except we'll be making it from scratch and I'll be explaining what it does. So you should delete everything. So let's start. So I'll write the line and then I'll tell you what it does. All right. So this is our line. So this is called a comment, as you might have known from English. So what you don't have to do this, but I like to do it. So I like to, the very first thing I write in a program is a comment about the title, just the title of what the file is. So then whenever I open it, I know that, oh yeah, it's the hello world.c program that I made. So that is done by writing in two backslashes or normal slashes. Backslashes will not work. That is done by writing two slashes, so that tells the program that anything that comes after the slashes is a whole entire comment. So if you do this, and then let's just say you want to write, this is a program for yourself, but this is not another comment. So for this, you'll have to do, again, two slashes to turn it into a comment. So another way of doing this is something called a multi-line comment. So for a multi-line comment, what you do is a slash and an asterisk to start it off. And then you can write anything like hi. And then we can go on to the next line and write bye, see you there. And once you're done writing whatever you need to write, you declare an asterisk and another slash. So after that, this turns into a comment, and if you write anything after that, it turns into a normal program file or normal program code. So right now, since we only need to write one line, we'll leave it at hello world.c. So as you might have noticed when I was typing, it was something like .c. It shows these. So this is just something that this compiler does. It gives you helpful suggestions that you might want to be writing. So right now we just want to write .c, but let's just say we want to write .continue. So then you can just click this and it's .continue. But we want to name it .c, so we know for ourselves that this is a .c file. So next we have but what I did here was I left the line in the middle, as you might see, line number 2, I left it open just to make it more easy to read because this looks kind of cramped up. And so what this line does is that this is the hashtag include. So basically it's just telling the computer it's a keyword to just import something. So we're importing something from something that's already built in the library. And then inside these arrows, we'll be declaring what we want to import. So in this case, it's standard io.h. So standard input output.h. So this is used for anytime that we want to take an input from the terminal or output from the terminal. Or if we want to print something, or if we want to ask a user a question or their input, we use this file. This is necessary to use the print functions and all those functions that we'll see later on. Next up, we have things like this. But once we're done gathering all the information outside, we go into our main function. So our main function is formatted this way, where you write int space main space. You don't really need the space for this one. You can keep it like this, but again, it helps with reading it and making it neater. So space, parentheses, Right now we want to leave these open because we're not really declaring anything outside of it. And then these brackets tell it that anything inside these brackets as you might have seen are linked, because as you highlight that pops up. So these brackets are linked, and anything between it is going to be whatever you want to execute. So as you might see, when you press enter, it automatically indents it over here. So that's how you know that you're doing on the right track. Even if it doesn't indent, it's fine, but again, indents just make it seem better. So inside here, we'll be writing so don't worry about these. We'll learn later why it's an int and why it's the main function when we go over functions. You can see for right now, it is what it is. And then over here, you write printf to tell the program that this is actually a command to tell the program that you're going to print out something. And then the basic printf, the format is like this. And then inside a function or inside your program, you don't need it for this, but inside a function, you always need to end a line with this. So this tells the program that your line ended with this, and now you're ready to execute this line. So this is how you do it. And since we want to print out hello world, which is something that we want to write at, so we use double quotation marks and whatever we want to write in, and then you close it with a double quotation marks. If you don't close it, it thinks that you also want to print this out part of the hello world, but that's actually not the case. So you close the quotation marks, you see it turns white, and then you close it over here. So let's just remove this for now. And then theoretically, this program is fine right now, it's done. But another thing you can do to make it even better is something I always do is at the very end, after you're done doing everything you want, so let's just say you want to print out this, right? And then you're done. You don't want to print out anything else, or you don't want to do anything else, no more calculations, no more nothing. So then at the end, right before closing the brackets, right before you want to do return 0. This tells our program to return the value 0. So when we are done, it returns the value 0. This way, so let's just try and run it, and then you'll see. When you click run, it gives us our hello world, and then over here it says program finished with exit code 0. So this is coming from this, where we told it to return. So we put it at the end, because when we put it at the end, right, so which means it's the last thing that the program is going to do. And if it's the last thing that the program is going to do and it gets it right, that means everything else in the program that came before this return statement is done perfectly by the program, and we don't need to worry about it. So that way we know that everything happened according to plan as we intended. So now let's show you why this is important, including hashtag include. So what we use here is a printf statement, and which is reporting whatever we want here into the terminal. So this is part of the standard input output. So if you just turn it into a comment, another use of comments is to test out code that you would normally use. So if we normally wanted to use it, we would have to delete the whole code so it doesn't interfere, but we can turn it into a comment so the program will skip over this for right now. And we run it. So he says, or here, let's read it. It says in main.c in line 5 and in line 6. So in main.c, which is our program name, in line 6, it says implicit declaration of the function printf. So it's telling us that the function printf is implicit and it doesn't know what it is. And it says incompatible implicit declaration in line 6. And then our error gives us a note that you should include stdio.h or provide a declaration of printf to tell us what it is. So these are just warnings. If you were in a real normal compiler, you would not be given this, but since this compiler is smart, it knows that this is what we're trying to do. It knows that it's just an error that we made. That's why it gave us a warning. But it's always best to remove all warnings. So you take this out and you run it. So now you see it's perfectly fine. So what if you wanted to print out something else too? So let's just say you wanted to print out by world. So you just write it in another line inside your main function, like this. You have your printf, parentheses, quotation, double quotation marks, and you run it. And you see hello world, bye world. So now you might be wondering, how do I make it into a new line? So for that, either right here, there's 3 ways to do it. Way number 1 is over here, you can do a \n right before you're closing this. So the way this works is it does printf, it prints out hello world, and this is called a new line escape character. So it prints out hello world, prints out a new line, goes to the second line, and then after this, it prints out bye world. So when you run it, it runs perfect. If you don't like this, another way you can do it is you print out the hello world statement, then you print out a new line, then you print out bye world. So when you run it, same thing. And last, which I think is the last one, there probably might be more, is right before this one. You do \n, you run it. So this is the same thing. It prints out hello world. Then when it goes in, it prints out a new line, and then it prints out bye world. This is how it's done. So another thing you might be wondering is, why do we need these brackets, and do they have to be over here? No. So as you might see, this bracket is linked to this bracket. So if you remove the bracket when you run it, it doesn't really know what printf is because it's not declared in main, right? So you can either declare it over here, well, we had it declared last time, or you can go into a new line and declare it like that. So now it's linked, and then when you run it, still runs fine. Some people have their different styles. I just like to do it this way. And last but not least, we'll show you what happens when you remove this, for example. So I remove that one, right? And then now I run it. Then it says in main.c on line 8 over here, if you click it, it takes you to line 8. It says it expected this character before return. So before this return, it expected us this. So that means on the line before it, at the end over here, it expected us to write this. So when you do this, it runs fine. But when you don't, it expected something over here, and it doesn't have it, so it can't really do the return. This, when you do this, because when you run this, it says expected this before return. And then when you do this, it runs fine. Because C isn't picky on if you end it on this line, it ends here. It just reads everything as if it was just one long sentence. So this is really not good coding style because you might write something else and then you might forget to write this. So instead, it's just better to include it at the end of each line. For example, you forget it over here, right? So it says in line 9, it expected this token before this. So you can do this, which runs fine, but again, it's better just to include it over here. All right, so that's all we have for today. If there's any things that I missed, or if there's anything else that you want to know, which is according to this program, if you didn't understand anything, make sure you leave it into the comments. I read all the comments, and please make sure you like and subscribe to